Spiritual bypassing is a term that refers to the process through which, due to very deep, very beautiful, very profound, very real spiritual experiences, we think that we are done. For most of us, we have many different processes going on. There is, of course, the deepest spiritual process, the core of who we are, our Dharma, that unfolding of the truth of who we are, that opening of who we are, that waking up of who we are. That's the corest, the deepest process and level. But most of us also have levels of mental process. And I say most of us, it could almost be all of us, but there are a few who, having come into an enlightened family, coming into a truly beyond unique exception, managed to be born and raised in a family, in a situation where every minute of the day they are simply seen in the fullness of themselves as divine beings, where the people around them see each other as divine beings, where that nature within them is cultivated, groomed, watered from the time they're born. Children who never in any way end up experiencing the repercussions of a parent's stress or a parent's tension or a parent's confusion or anger. So you can see, as I'm telling this, it sounds very much like a fairy tale situation. So most of us do have these mental processes, but I know there are occasionally situations, so for that we say most of us. The mental process is a process in which, during our childhoods, during our time of ego development, during our time as we grow and we understand who we are in the world, we end up developing what we call sanskaras, or personalities, or identities, or complexes, or neuroses, or issues. I mean, there's so many different words that dance around the same process, which is basically the nonsense in my mind. It's basically the stuff in my mind that isn't working for my own awakening, that isn't working for my own enlightenment, that isn't leading me toward a capital T truth, but rather that says things like, oh my God, you're so stupid, or that person's really ugly, or you're not good enough for this, or that person isn't good enough for that. Whether it's judgment of the self, judgment of others, that mental process is that which holds us back in a lot of ways. It's what keeps us stuck. It's what keeps us stuck in relationships with each other, relationships with ourselves. It's that which keeps us from being able to live in complete love, complete oneness, complete union, complete openness with those around us. It's that which makes us feel frustrated, jealous, angry, competitive, worried about scarcity, lack, not enough. It's a mental process. Now, what happens a lot of times is those of us in the midst of so many interweaving mental processes, so many different complexes and ego games and sanskaras and neuroses and whatnot, have a very real, very powerful spiritual experience. Maybe it happens suddenly by grace. Maybe it happens because we've started meditating. Maybe it happens because we've started going to devotional chanting, to kirtan. Maybe it happens in one of so many other ways. The experience is real. It's an experience of, oh my God, I am one with the universe. I am one with God. I am perfect. Everything is perfect. I understand it all. And it's real. And it's beautiful. And in almost every case, it has not obliterated, undone my ego processes, my jealousy, my expectation, my neuroses, my issues. What it has done is shown me the possibility of where to go. It's shown me the truth. But I don't necessarily have an easy time living that truth every moment. And spiritual bypassing means that once I've had that spiritual experience, I decide, oh, I'm done. I'm enlightened. I'm awakened. I'm done. Therefore, any further anger, ego, neurosis, jealousy, greed, lust, ignorance, whatever I may be swimming in, well, it's not my problem. It must be your problem because I am enlightened. I am awake. And this becomes a very, very dangerous trap. Because where before the spiritual experience, we at least were aware that, yeah, I've got a lot of work to do. After the spiritual experience, this sense of sort of spiritual arrogance comes in. And then every time I have a moment of anger, pain, greed, lust, not enoughness, sadness, whatever it may be, instead of looking at that, instead of being present with that, I simply try to hook into, oh, that beautiful experience I had. I'm enlightened, I'm awakened, this isn't my reality. And this is where you get all of these fantastic and ever so true, poignant and very funny comments like, oh, you think you're enlightened? Go spend 2 weeks with your parents and then let us know. Because those are the sorts of situations that tend to make most people realize not how unreal their spiritual experience was, but how much work there still is left to do to actually be able to live that every minute and every moment. And so spiritual bypassing is when I pretend that that doesn't exist. I pretend that my spiritual experience has fixed everything. And so if you have a problem with me, well, it must be your problem, because I'm done. On a personal level, I remember I had been here maybe 6 months, maybe 9 months, a long time when you're having the type of spiritual experiences that I was having every day, every hour of every day almost, of just such ecstasy, such complete immersion in God, in divinity, in ecstasy, tears pouring down the face ecstasy. And about 6-9 months into it, something happened. And I went to Puja Swamiji. And I went to him with my reaction to what had happened. And he looked at me and he said, "You are the stupidest smart person I've ever met." And it was like this incredible slap in the face. He didn't have to actually pick up a hand and touch the cheek. That would have just hit the cheek. The words hit so deeply. But it was a slap not to injure. It was a slap to awaken. Because it was a slap of the ego that made me realize, oh yeah, all of these incredible experiences I've had, yes, so real, so true, so full, so complete, and yes, I still had 25 years worth of sanskaras, worth of neuronal patterns and networks that were still at play. And that still could be triggered sometimes by something that someone said or did. And that could still thrust me into an identity that wasn't all love, all truth, all divinity, but that was a conditioned identity, a sanskara, a habit from the past. And it was, while it was obviously very painful to the ego at the moment, that's the great role of what the gurus do, is instead of allowing you to just slip into ignorant, not bliss, it's not bliss, because without truth there can't be bliss, but without letting you slip into ignorant comatoseness, they wake you up. And they metaphorically, Puja Swamiji's guru used to actually slap him. He just metaphorically awakens that ego with that psychic slap of the ego to realize, hey, wait, there's still work to do. There's still patterns that need to heal. There's still patterns that need to be looked at. And that's a beautiful process, by the way. And this is why whenever people ask me about the intersection of psychology and spirituality or different, psychological patterns we have, I always say this is exciting work because it shows you the very unique inner workings of your psyche. On a spiritual level, we are one. Consciousness, awareness, soul, spirit, it is the same. There's nothing unique about soul. Soul just is. But each of our interactions with soul, each of our interactions with truth, interactions with spirit, interactions with consciousness, interactions with love, are colored and shaped by our own sanskaras, by our own egos, by our own minds that have been conditioned in our lives. And that's where the psychological work is so beautiful, to be able to look in and finally realize, oh wow, yeah, now I get it. Now I know why that silly thing bothers me so much. Now I know why this. It's not the other person, it's me. And again, not with any guilt or judgment or criticism, just with pure awareness of, oh yeah, there's that pattern. It's like, I injured my knee about 4 or 5 years ago, and it's pretty much healed, 99% healed, but every once in a while I do something and, I bend down too quickly or I stand up too quickly or something, and then I remember, oh yeah, that knee. Not with judgment, not with criticism, just awareness. Oh yeah, the knee. And in the same way, we recognize these patterns we have just with that. Oh yeah, that's sanskara. Oh yeah, that pattern. Oh yeah, that history. Not to do that, to deny that, to pretend that doesn't exist, to move through the world with the I am perfect, everyone else is the problem. I am enlightened, I am awake. If you have a problem with me, it is your problem. You must be the one in ego. That's spiritual bypass. To believe that I am somehow free of patterns, of sanskaras, of ego, simply because I've been graced with an extraordinary, exquisite, ecstatic spiritual experience. That's spiritual bypass. So you see it. You see it a lot in the spiritual world. It's the non-functioning people in spiritual communities. It's the, yes, I meditate. Yes, I, do sadhana. Oh, yes, I've had these beautiful spiritual experiences. But don't come near me because you're going to ruin my peace. Don't say that, it ruins my peace. Don't ask me to do this, it ruins my peace. Don't look at me like that, it ruins my peace. Do whatever I say because I'm the enlightened one. And you see that. Oh, I don't need to do that, I'm enlightened. You sadly see this a lot. And so that's where the term comes from. And it's a beautiful reminder of the beauty of our own psyches, the beauty of our own unique makeup. Not as something to get stuck in, not as something to identify with, not as something to take over our lives with, processing it, drowning in it, rehearsing it, rehashing it over and over and over again, such that we literally just live in the past. But simply to be aware of it. And wherever there's blockages, wherever there's stuckness, wherever there's darkness, to be able to look at it courageously, vulnerably, to acknowledge it, and to help it heal in whatever way in our individual processes we work with ourselves.